All right. I know, it's so official. Morning, everyone, officially. So my name is Maddie and I'm the curator here at Auburn Estate Arts Centre. And I'm, of course, sitting in the beautiful space where we've got Hine, which is Ashlee Tawhiti's solo exhibition with us here at the moment. And the lovely Ashlee is joining us from Great Barrier Island this morning as well, which is really nice. So thank you all for jumping on. It's awesome that we can now do this so easily with Zoom and connect everyone. So thank you all for coming. But what we'll do, I've got Ash and I will have a bit of a conversation back and forth to start us off, and then for the virtual tour element, we do a bit of a pan around the room and Ashlee can talk a bit more in depth to certain works. And then we'll have some space for questions at the end if anyone has anything they'd like to ask too. But I'll start off with a bit of a bio read about Ashlee. So Ashlee is a multi-disciplinary artist whose practice explores rāranga, sound, light, and installation. Her most recent works employ the use of natural materials and organic ephemera and in celebration of the natural world. Ashlee holds a Bachelor of Design and Visual Arts from Unitec and has exhibited in both solo and group exhibitions around Aotearoa. Her recent projects include the large-scale installation, The Three Kete of Knowledge, as part of Changing Lanes for Art Week last year, which definitely look that one up because we are big fans of that here, which was in Central Auckland. Ashlee is currently based in Aotea Community Art Gallery as all hats, as curator and arts educator. And of course, this exhibition here is part of Matariki Festival as well. I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, that's a bit about Ash, but to start us off officially, I thought you could tell us a little bit more personally about where you started with your making and who and what inspires you, and just a bit about your journey so far.
Awesome, thank you, Maddie. Morning, everyone. Ko Ashlee Tawhiti aho. My name's Ashlee. I have been an artist, I guess, since I was 5 when I got my art set with the felts and the crayons and all that stuff. And when I was 8, I made a pencil holder caddy thing. And I can still remember making it and on all those kind of things that happen when you're inspired and you've got some tape and some stuff. And it kind of led me on to continue to make with my hands throughout school. I was in the Gateway program, if any of you know that, what that is. It's set for mainly boys to go into trades. So me and one other girl were in there. She's now an aviation mechanic in the Air Force. But I kind of went into metalwork, woodwork, graphics, drawing, and art painting, which was very exciting for me. Finished school, went into graphic design, and then kind of just didn't know about what to do next, and finally went to art school at Unitec in 2012, when my daughter was 3, full-time study. And an important part to note, I think, on that journey is that I got accepted into a Māori mentoring program. So I had a lot to do with the marae and Whaia Linda and the staff that were down there. And through uni, I kind of found myself resonating with my culture for the first time ever. I had to stand up and say my pepeha, and I cried every time I had to do it because it was just such an epic thing for me to do. But now I can stand and do it without crying, which is awesome. But yeah, really just kind of looking into my culture and learning kind of art forms as such, or pretty much everyday objects that were adorned and decorated so beautifully. So, and all of that linking in would be that making with my hands is such an important part for me. High school, they said you should do you should, go and do typing and things like that. And I was like, it's still not enough to do with my hands. So metalwork and woodwork and art was my jam, but pretty much scaffolded me to where I am now in my job, running a community art gallery on an offshore off-grid island. But yeah, that's pretty much when I became an artist, I believe.
Yeah, awesome. And I mean, that leads us beautifully on to my next question, which was about your move over to Aotea, which was quite recent. I wanted to talk a little bit about how that's impacted you and your making, because I know it's such a big change of environment for you. So if you could talk to that.
Yeah, massively. I've been privileged to be coming to Great Barrier since I was 5, since I got my art set since I was 5. But I moved here, I made the decision to put my daughter not into high school, but to do correspondence school and to learn from the environment which I'm in, even though I'm in the building. But it's just amazing. It's an amazing place. It's I was watching Kanoa on the news the other night, and she was driving through to Tarangi, and she said, it's just so amazing. It's like you're going on holiday, you're in this magical place. And I was like, but you're not. Like, it's so completely different. So the idea of of nature and the natural environment, it totally exists in Auckland City. But when you come to Great Barrier, you're in a whole nother world, and and there's just, it's completely different. I don't even have the words to explain it, but for my making, it's interesting, the need to make here is different than the need to make in town for me. And I say town as in Auckland. There's not, like, the whole idea of plastic and things that come in bags and materials that are produced in factories, even so for myself, even the idea of a canvas being constructed, in factories on the line and all kind of with all the stuff, chemicals in them, and then you get it, and then you've got to buy the toxic paint that goes on it, and it's all kind of intertwined with like materiality and what are you doing it for. So moving here has helped me question a lot about my practice, and yeah, pretty much if any of you have been to my installation, it's nature, things that you find, things that we all find, and we all have access to. It's just aligning with yourself, really. Me, I'd say, not aligning to what's the coolest art on Instagram, or what someone I follow, what their latest thing is, and how I have to maybe create work that's similar to theirs or anything like that. So I just kind of, I believe that to create art, you've got to question it all the time as well. And I know, Maddie, when I was installing, and you come in, hey Ash, and I'm like, is this really what I'm doing, Maddie? Like, is this real? Like, am I actually doing this? So it's kind of, the install, or the 3 stages of the artwork's life, as Maddie put it. The life that you create it, you make it, you have your time with it, and then you put it into a gallery, it changes again. And then it's off for its new life. It's transformed, and it's new, and it's different, and it's kind of removed from myself, from my hands, from my heart, where I've made it. So just that kind of transition of art into different spaces is really interesting as well. Yeah, I think I'm ranting now.
I was just going to say, as you were talking about that, that's such an interesting element of your work, because I mean, there's lots of artists who work with found materials as a medium, and that's what you're doing, but it's different because you're using the natural materials from around you and everything that's come from the ground and from the water, and it's a really beautiful way of thinking about things, what you just explained. And obviously most of the works in this exhibition are using, well, they're all using natural materials actually, but what was kind of the catalyst for this body of work? Like, how did, we talked about the exhibition, we were just saying before, you know, this time last year, but what was the catalyst for this body of work in particular that you're showing?
I guess what I've learned about myself and my art practice through this show particularly is how I come to make art. So, and it's, I guess I can encapsulate it in, it's a moment that I try and draw out as long as I can, and then it's ended. So it's like, the moment for me, I was standing on the beach, and, you know, Kaitoki Beach on Great Barrier, and Marley was kind of playing in the water as you do, and I just kind of stood there and thought, wow, like, because she's 13 as well, like she's so big now, but she's still very young, but in that short life of hers, how much growth I've done myself as a mother, and also how far she's come from being a tiny baby. So just kind of trying to freeze frame on that moment of realization of where I am and where she is and where everything is, I guess, and just and exhibiting it kind of gives her and I a snapshot to our life, what we were doing and what, you know, and what we were thinking during the time of making. It's kind of like I look back on it now because it's gone from there, it's in that gallery space. But just that kind of that moment that I was able to also like tune out. There's not lots of traffic, there's not lots of people, there's not lots of things happening. It's just you can kind of connect into what's happening around you, and that's pretty much what I tried to kind of convey through my installation. Is just it's the work is really personal to myself and also to my daughter, I guess. It's like showing someone your family album that you don't know.
Yeah.
But I use that kind of idea in my practice now over the last few years as well, in particular, to kind of snapshot a time. Yes, and when I look back, there's all the other things that happen around it, but those moments, like I look at the work or I think about it and my mind can go straight back there to that time where I was at the beach and I saw her in the water. So for me, that's what that show is about, and the gist of it. There's lots of things feeding into it, but that's the main point for making that work. And yeah, just kind of share where we were at that time, and her learnings through that too, and my teachings, and vice versa. Yeah.
And then my next question is, I wanted to talk about the most prominent piece in the show, which is the Harakiki veil. And, you know, when we were installing, you talked a lot about using this as it's a huge room divider, really. It kind of acts as it creates a new space within the gallery that I'm sitting in now that is that space for contemplation and meditation, and that's kind of echoing what you said you experienced, you know, with Marley on the beach that day and what you experience in your home now. But I want you to talk a little bit about the veil and how you made it, because it's really I've been telling people and it's quite amazing. Yeah, just the process of it.
Right. So yeah, the veil is exactly that. It's a kind of a thin layer, you can see through it, but it's distorted. I talk about, well, I think about changing, like in Māori creation story, there's te kore, which is the nothing or the dark, te pō, which is the long night, and then through to te ao Marama, where we live is the world of light. But through those realms or spaces, or never have the right words for that, but it's kind of, I relate it for myself to think, you know, when I'm like at nighttime at home, like when it's really calm and quiet, that could be for me in Te Po. I could be in Te Po at that time, the longest night, the dark, where things are like, I can get bits of inspiration, but also it's just really calm. Or Te Kore, which is like the unconscious, the subconscious, the thing that is always working at the back and feeding in too. Yeah, so that kind of change in realm, change in space, change in mindset. And I was talking to my friend last night, and she said, what did you do when you walked up to it? What did you do? And she said, I wanted to walk through it, but then I wasn't sure. I had to read if I was allowed, and I could, so I went through. And I said, perfect. Like all of those questions, like the psychology of that, of, oh, here's like a thing, like what do I now do with it? Like, and how your thought process changes through different realms and different spaces and places, and then your values come out. You're like, oh, but I might break it, so I have to like wait, or all those types of things. So as much as a divider of space, it's also like really tactile. Like I love, I'll just talk a little bit on my Raranga journey. There's a whakatauki which says, pretty much marry the woman who's at the pāharakiki because she is a hard worker. And I shared that with Julie, who helped me harvest as well. I said, it's always good work, and you kind of get in and you're doing this physical work, and then you kind of load up this big stack of harakiki on your shoulder, and you walk along and people are like, what are you doing? What's she doing? Carrying all this stuff. And it's that, for me, it's that physical doing that makes me feel like I've achieved something, but also like it's life. If you can move and do stuff and think, you're alive. And that's like, we're in Te Ao Marama, so we should do, pretty much, is my thing for creating the veil. Yeah. The whole active workout of bending down and knowing how to harvest and having that connection with the plant as well, because not all of the harakiki wants to be harvested a lot. And it's hooking into those energies again, and just kind of letting things guide you, rather than you go, no, this is what we're going to do and it's going to go like this. You kind of have to give it up somewhere, I think. Yeah, so the veil, that's what it is to me. It's pretty good social experiment as well.
It's a really good social experiment, and I must say most people are just, when they see someone else touch it, they like run and grab the opportunity. Yeah. But most people we left a space at this end here where people could kind of walk around and enter the space that way rather than going through, and that's such an unnatural thing to do in a gallery too. You're used to not touching things, so it's beautiful that we can do that. And one other thing I wanted to say is, when you're in this space, another element is that there's the beautiful scent of the harakiki, which is, people have been saying, it's faded a little bit now, but especially when we first put it up, people could smell it outside the gallery, and they came in and it's the first thing you see when you walk through the door. So it is this amazing kind of sensory experience, and it does really transport you to that kind of space and time that you were talking about before. But moving on from the veil, I wanted to talk a little bit about the title of the show and how that came about.
Right, yeah, the interesting title. So I was always told you never break up Māori words, but I don't speak the reo and I don't understand a lot of it. I just know what I know through my makings. But for me, from what I know of the Māori language, is that it's like one word means so many different things.
Mm.
Whereas like in English, like computer is computer, tree is tree type thing. But in the Māori language, there's so many more meanings attached to a word. So pretty much wahine, as in woman, female essence. I was talking about myself and Marley at the time, and us both being female, and then kind of karanga, when in a pōwhiri process, the elderly woman will do the karanga and she'll call you on and you'll be received, and then you go through the pōwhiri process. But you also do, when you perform karanga, you're under the protection of Hine Moana, the ocean. So that's another wahine. And then we were going up the maunga to extract the clay and whatever else we needed to extract. And but pretty much Marley found the deposit of kokowai, which is that really red coloured clay. And so then I shared with her again the story of Hine Ahoane, the first woman, and how she was formed out of the clay, but she needed to be formed out of the reddest clay from Papatūānuku. So if you're a woman, you get the gist. So pretty much talking about all that female essence that I was picking up on and pulling in throughout the process. That's wahine. Break it up, you've got wa and hine. Wa is time or space or place. Again, there's lots of meanings to one word, but for me, I interpret it time and space. So the veil talks to the wa, the time and space, the space between as you enter, and then you go through the veil, and then you're on the other side type thing. You haven't necessarily transformed who you are in that process, but there is some type of transformation that potentially could happen in that process. So that for me, that's the wa. Wahine, wairua. So why is water, W-A-I. And as we all know, it's important to all life. And for me, on Kaitoki Beach is right next to the, what are they called? The wetlands. And so the wetlands seep out to the ocean down the creek, and you see all the, like the tannin and all the mud stuff that comes out. But the relationship between the waters, I was talking about with that, more specifically to do with the stars, Waiti and Waita, but the relationship of how the simple but complicated cycle of the water, on how it rains, it gets, onto the earth, however it filters through the wetlands or not, but it comes through the wetlands and it comes out into the ocean. So the fresh water changes to salt, back around and again. So that also relates, for me personally, it relates to Hine Moana, because when you cry and when you sweat, you're excreting salt water. So hence the connection back to the ocean. Where was I? Rua is two. So talking about me and my daughter, pretty much the two of us. And wairua as a word on its own can be translated to spirit or soul or energy that flows through. The traditional meaning of wairua is who do you come from? Who are your two waters that made you? Your mother and your father. So wairua talks about who you are, where you come from, and all that comes from, from who created. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of the title, and how I broke it up to, to have lots of meanings as well, but also kind of secret meanings for me and Marley as well. Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful title, because I feel like you think you get it, and then there'll be another reference that you're like, oh, you kind of realize, like what you were just saying with the wairua. It's very clever word play, Ash.
Very multi-layered.
Yeah, and you were talking a bit about your reference to Waiti and Waita, which are the stars in the Matariki cluster, and they obviously reference the saltwater and freshwater essentially.
Yes.
An interesting part of the show is how they connect just from the natural world, because they, everything in the show has been made with or come from those two kind of waters. But could you talk about their particular kind of place in the show and how they resonated when you were making the works?
Yeah, for me, it's about depth in my knowledge and depth in my meanings. I've been researching, watching, following Dr. Rangi Matamua, who was in charge of making the public holiday, but he's also got all the information around Matariki from one tribal Māori perspective. But for me, researching and following and listening to him over the years and linking back into my culture, it's about Marama, and it's about learning how the moon cycles and how our environment will tell us what's happening if we know the language of the environment. So for me, when I was still back living in town, I made a big Marama dial, so I could start to track the moon and things and the energies and stuff, but I couldn't really get as much track on it as I wanted, because so many times, more than often, I'd be inside with the lights on doing other things, cooking or whatever. And but being here on Aotea is one of it gives me the opportunity to track things a lot better and to know when the seasons are going to change and the tohu or the signs in the environment that tell us those things. So for me, I was for Waiti and Waita, I was looking for that deeper connection of what the stars mean and what they actually relate to in the environment. I've just got a Bunnings ad that's in my head and just keep replaying over Matariki, and it's like, what do you do on Matariki? Oh, we spend time with our family. Like, get a real meaning, find your own meaning, find a deeper meaning than the definition on computer type thing. So for me, the link into Waiti and Waita is just about looking for those tohu and those signs in the environment that I'm in now, and trying to educate with Māori as well.
Yeah.
So the best classroom.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, Ash, and I love that. Yeah, it totally is about your, especially for your own interpretation. So you've done that on such a beautiful scale. So thank you. Speaking of Māori, there's of course a collaborative suite of works by the two of you in the exhibition. So I wondered if you could tell us about that and what it was like collaborating with your 13-year-old.
It was good fun. I mean, walking up the maunga the few times to extract and harvest and find the right types of clay or just whatever colours looked good. She's pretty much in that teenager stage almost now, and she's like, oh, I don't want to walk, I don't want to do this, la la la. So I just it's kind of that transition that's changed since the show got installed. But prior, working with her and things, there was lots of stories that we shared. I just kind of spelt off anything that I knew related to whatever she was asking. But also for us to be here and to have specific sites on the island that we had a lot more deeper connection with, like we drive, I see the maunga every day, as and it'll be the same for all of you if you drive past the shop and the tree and the whatever every day. But it's not until you get out and you spend time at that place and see what there is to see or smell or whatever, that those deeper connections can kind of happen. So working with my daughter was interesting, but for the main part, it connected us a lot more as well. And her 3 pieces that she made and have sold, she said to me, well, I think I can maybe be an artist. I think I can do this art thing. So if that's confirmation that she had a good time, then I'll take that for sure.
Yeah, of course. And I mean, we'll pan around and you guys will be able to see we're calling them the collaborative suite. But there are a whole lot of small clay kind of vessels, and some of them you can play. Isn't that right, Ash?
Yeah, so my ones, a couple of shows ago, I made a whole lot of tonga pūro or clay, what do you call them? They're not flutes. Okay, the words escaped me, but they're based on a gourd shape, and they kind of go around with a little bit in the top. And if you've got the right lips, and I say that because I couldn't play them all, but some people can, you just kind of blow into them, and they give this kind of resonating sound that can, when I've played them to people, they've said, oh, that's like a creepy sound, or that's a calming sound, or that's like a high pitch urgent sound. So my ones kind of have that other side to them, because I just deeper connection through sound. Pretty much linking it back through to karanga, as when I hear that sound for myself, I get like a thing in my throat, and I'm like, wow. So if sound can unlock things in your wairua, then it must be pretty powerful.
So another element, you've talked a lot about, like, there's these links between the kind of natural cycles and the cycles of life that you and Marley are both experiencing. And then there was also this other element, because you've included a kete that your mum gifted to you. So how does this tie into the show?
Mum's kete, Mum got gifted that kete for her 21st by her father, I believe, by my papa. And I'd never seen it before. And when I picked up raranga and I made the first konoa, I think, and I gave it to her, she went down the hallway and she came back and she goes, here, you can have this. But wow, where did that come from? She goes, my 21st present, and we used to get pippies in it. It's the pippy basket. And I thought, wow, oh my gosh. And it's like one of the handles, because she did say, well, you can fix it now. So I haven't fixed it. I haven't gotten that far in my skill set, but I decided to include it in the installation to reiterate and confirm that of the cycles and the generations, I guess, just kind of how like for me to pick up raranga in my 30s, and for her to then kind of gift that to me, and I was pretty honored, I'd say, and it just kind of links into, that's my mom's basket, like that's my mom's, then I've got my basket next to it, and then I've got Marley's works in the show as well, so we're all in there together with, I believe, with our ancestors as well. So that's the connection for me, and I just really wanted to see her face when she came and saw it, and she pretty much said, why did you put that in there? Like, it's kind of broken, but yeah, it was important for me to have that in there to just kind of support and total for that, love you, mum, pretty much. Yeah.
The cycle continues.
Totally.
Awesome. Well, I think we should see some works now. So what we'll do is I'll pick you guys up and take you around the room, and Ash, maybe you can talk a little bit about what we're seeing as we do that. But I thought I would start I'll start in the doorway where you kind of come in so you can see the effect of the veil. So 1 second, I'll walk over there.
You walked around it, Maddie, not through it.
I know. Well, I don't, we can go through it if you like. But yeah, so this is what you see when you come in. And I will walk through and we enter this space. I'm just going to walk down here. So this is kind of the space that's created, isn't it, Ash?
Yeah, check the sunlight.
I know, and I've got a little, I won't show you, I've got the curtain up a little bit, so you're getting a beautiful light effect. But there's these 3 works up here.
Yes, those ones are the one on the right. I don't know which way the camera goes to other people, but the one on the right, I learnt that the tree, the lacebark tree, or the hohere, you kind of take, like I took a small branch off and you peel back the bark, and underneath the bark is this beautiful thin, like meshy kind of lace stuff. And so, and I've seen it in pictures, like quite thick, like a couple of centimeters thick for each strip. It's a big kind of basket. It looks like ribbons. It's pretty amazing stuff. But just to know, to learn about it and then to discover it and to work with it was really cool. And I've never seen it before. But it's really soft. Almost like muka from the fiber inside the harakeke. Yeah. And the other two have got they're bound quite tightly with harakeke. And I think there's the middle one, I dipped it in the kokowai as well. Yeah.
Just so we can get a context, so you kind of look across there at the veil. So it really does create this space. And then down low here, we've got the collaborative suite you worked on with Marley, which I'll do my best to show. I'm not sure if you guys can see very well.
Those are all my little, the ones that you can play. So they're all kind of relatively sized to my hand. One kind of thing I picked up, I'm not a clay worker, I'm not a ceramic artist or anything, but these particular, the uku, the clay works, there's a ceramic artist down the road from the gallery here. She's a member of the gallery. Her name's Elise Bishop, and her work includes wild local clay. And that just intrigued me. I'm like, what do you mean wild clay? So I chatted with her, and she actually took Marley and I up and said, oh, hey, this will fire like this will fire like this. And then we found some different, some really heavily iron deposited clay as well, which I didn't know what it was at the start. I thought, oh, this is like probably going to fall apart in the kiln. And that's them there, and they bubbled up like crazy. And yeah, I've never seen anything quite like that before, and neither has Elise. She rang me up and she said, oh, you're going to have to come down. I just opened the kiln. You need to see these. So I went down and I thought, wow, yeah, they were pretty cool. But just that transformation that happens, like, oh, I would have never expected them to turn out the way they did. It was white, really light blue clay. Yeah. So just the transformation for me was really amazing through the firing process. So yeah, there was a kind of a third collaborator at least. Yeah.
And we talked about them all being low to the floor as well. Did you want to mention why that was?
Yeah, for me, it's that, like how I was explaining, when I harvest the harakeke, there's a lot of physical, like I'm bending down and doing stuff, and it's kind of when we went to extract the clay, we didn't extract it from here on a bench. We had to get down and sit on the dirt and all that kind of stuff. So for me to have the clay works down low was to get people to do that physical thing, that physical movement. And it was quite cool because once on opening night, when I saw people interacting with the work, they kind of go over to it and they kind of bend down a little bit. And after a while, they're like, oh, bugger it. And they just sit on the floor next to it. And that for me to kind of make people kind of sit down, or make people not just stand there with your hands behind your back kind of thing, that involves the viewer a lot more, I feel, then they're not just kind of, oh, that's nice, you're actually doing something else, which helps for me, I believe, to create that other space. Yeah.
We move over to this plinth, which is, let me see how I can show it. This is again lots of the kind of natural material and ephemera.
I just kind of had a thought that they're up on that plinth. So I could just insert a little curator of the maunga here. It's actually the seabed that's risen up. So I could just say that I put those on the high plinth to represent the seabed, but I didn't. They're kind of little experiments for me. I've seen seaweed baskets before, beautiful ones that, for me, it's the interesting element of ephemeral art, that it may not stay that way forever. It's going to eventually break down, however long that takes. But kind of that corridor on like no packaging and stuff like that. It can go out to the environment. It doesn't have to go to landfill or anything like that. It's kind of thinking about those materials and why you use them, I guess. And then there's a whole nother research component of how do you use them? How do you keep them from going moldy? How do you keep them from rotting and all that kind of stuff? So yeah, just a lot more playing, I think. Those ones, yeah.
And then we've got this other lower plinth with this is your mum's kete at the back, isn't it? And
yeah, the flippy basket. And I've got the Kupinga net there, which is my favorite kind of weave to do. It locks into itself, and it can expand and go back. So it has this movement with it, which is really cool. But just a basic kind of technique that I've learned, and then did the same technique on the hui next to it. So the hui, I grew that last summer. No, because we're now in winter. 2 summers ago. 2 summers ago here on Aotea, and I grew 2 of them. I managed to grow 2, and that's one of them. And shout out to Jean. Those were Jean's seeds. So meeting lots of other people that are into growing gourds or hui, and kind of having conversations and swapping seeds and seeing how their growing season went is always a really cool collaborative thing I like to do around with the hui. Yeah.
And then like the last little element I'll just show you is that in the very corner, we've just tucked these photographs. What is the photograph, Ash?
At the top, I've got, I think the top one is the view from up on the maunga, up on Ahumata. The second one is me standing on the beach looking at the maunga. It gets really amazing cloud formations above it all the time. It's quite interesting. The third one is actually, Marley took that photo, and Elise and I are on the left talking about how that place can fire. So being up there as well, and same as the last one, just the view from being up so high. It's the second highest mountain on Great Barrier, but it's not the biggest. And yeah, so I kind of, I placed them kind of in that space, kind of tucked around the back at the end or somewhat, because for me, there's that whakatoki of kimua kimuri, that's like walking backwards into the future. So just kind of, you come through the door and you'd experience the exhibition or the install, and then you'd look at these photos, and that could help you gauge what I'm trying to talk about or not. But for me, like I say, that body of work is pretty close to my heart, so it's really personal, I guess. But I'd say that's the best way I could explain that part, I think. Hey, Maddie.
Yeah, and I hope I did an okay job of filming. It's always a little bit tricky. But yeah, that kind of brings us to the more of the end of the talk. If anyone did have any questions for Ashlee, now would be the time to ask them.
I have a question, actually.
I'm Molly.
Hi. First of all, thank you so much for that kōrero. It's really, really amazing to hear about all those thoughts behind your practice, and it's such a beautiful exhibition, so well done. When you were talking, I was thinking a lot about, I saw this seminar where Nico Hinden and Rukura Ture talked about whenua as a source in their practice. And a lot of your ideas resurrected with that, I think. And one thing that came up a lot in that talk was, of course, this connection to the whenua, but also the embodiment of whakapapa in whenua. And you did talk about that a bit already, and of course with the kete passed through generations. But I guess I was wondering, you talk a lot about capturing the now and the moment of you and your daughter growing and being in the present, but I wonder maybe if in using those materials, particularly the kokowai, if you consider that to capture some of the past as well.
Totally. Even at least when we were up on the maunga and Marley kind of was ahead of us, we were talking, and she was like, "Mum, I found the paint." No, cool, found the paint. What do you mean you found the paint? And then walked along, and then she's sitting on the ground with this tiny, like that kind of big but small deposit, and she's got the stick, and she's just like hooking and getting all this kind of stuff out. And then I said, "Oh, like we have to like talk about this as, you know, the story of Hine and Papatūānuku, and how the first woman was made in the reddest clay." So that's pretty much like being up there as well. And before we hacked at any ground and took anything away, I did a little karanga to acknowledge all the Māori that was there, the ones who had gone before us there, and to asked the maunga for permission, asked Papatūānuku. I asked the past in a way, if it's okay if I can move this stuff into the now where we are, pretty much is the gist of, I guess, how I could put it. Does that make sense?
It totally does, yeah. Thank you so much.
Cool, thank you.
We've just got a question in the chat that says, how did you prep the harakeke for your veil? Is it shredded? Which is a great question.
Yeah, it's totally shredded. I have a couple of, I don't have any with me, they're called stay puts. They're these old school floristry tools. Some weavers use like the flea combs and things like that, but I had some awesome blisters after that day. I showed Maddie, look at my hand. But so I pretty much harvested them all in bundles, and then I laid them out on the floor so I could see the sizes, because you don't want to have it all the same length and then have long ones, or this is me and my rules. I had to kind of lay it out to know how long they were going to be, and then it was the process of doing however many squats, pick it up, shred like this, and then kind of put it down, then the next one. So it's kind of, yeah, it's just shredded. And then I had my partner / personal technician, he came in and he drilled the holes through the top and then threaded it onto the wire. And I didn't look when they were putting it up. Maddie looked. I couldn't look. I was like, oh, it's just so the weight of it was quite heavy, and I haven't made one that large before. So yeah, shredded and a lot of squats.
She said, I can imagine you had blisters. Sounds like a major workout too.
Yeah,
Confirm it was.
it was totally a workout. I couldn't believe the squat aspect of it. Like my legs are so sore the next day.
So you got shredded in the process, am I right?
Yeah, totally.
And it's hard to see on here, but the veil, it's over 5 meters long. So there's a lot of harakeke, and we've got a really great photo on the Corbin's Instagram if anyone wants to go have a look, of it all laid out with Ashlee and our technician Tony sitting there, just to see like the mass of it, because it's interesting. It was so green then, and it's now transformed a lot, and it's,
Yeah.
I imagine it will be a bit lighter now.
Yep.
Yeah, because it's dried out a bit more. So
Yeah, it'll definitely be lighter. My ones that I've made in the past are you know, really light, and they shrink. It just keeps shrinking. So they were a couple of meters, and now they're only like 1.5 meters. So just that ephemeral thing that happens to natural materials. Yeah.
And I'm just looking at the chat. She said, amazingly long row you're working with. So lucky.
Yeah, I had some pretty good spots that I know out west, which I've gone to harvest. Thanks, Auckland City Parks, for growing us some awesome harakeke. Yeah, some of the ones were quite big, and then one of my friends had a couple at her place, so I went and cleaned up her section for her too, which was awesome. Yeah, thank you.
Is there any other questions anyone had? And if not, then I think that will be us for the morning. So the exhibition is on until next Sunday is the last day to come and see it. So you've got a whole week if you would like to come to the galleries. Otherwise, thank you so much, Ash, for your words today and for sharing your mahi with us. It's really beautiful, and we've loved having it here. So thank you very, very much.
Thanks everyone for coming. Very cool.
And yeah, we'll put the recording up on YouTube as well. So if there's on the Corbin's YouTube, if there's anyone you'd like to send it to, or you think might enjoy it, please do share that on.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. That was really awesome. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Thank you, Maddie.
Of course. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Cool.
Thank you.